Hello, everybody. So I'm on a roll. I thought I'd make some videos, so hence I still look the same as the last video. I haven't moved because I kind of want to churn out some videos regularly. So yeah, this is me looking exactly like I did for the last video. So something that I have started sharing in recent videos is my paramedic experiences and things that I've seen and experienced with attending to patients. Now, I want to talk about forgiveness today because, forgiveness is a very broad topic, a very personal topic, a very sometimes difficult topic to talk about, obviously. There's no one human on this earth who does not need to forgive. And boy, do we have a lot of people that, need to ask us for forgiveness. We all have that. We all have stuff in our lives. And I want to share a story about something that happened when I was a paramedic, which still lives with me to this day. I mean, remember, I was a paramedic 30, red if you're listening, 30, not 50. I wish I looked this good in my 70s, you know what I'm saying? So no, it was 30 years ago. And, yes, some of the details are vague as always, but forgiveness is a thing, right? It is such a big thing. Now, the story, this is a patient I attended. It was the middle of the day. My partner and I got called to a gunshot. Now, in South Africa, that happens a lot. We're a very violent, unfortunately, crime-ridden society. And even back then, there was a lot of violence and a lot of trauma going on. Our country is just known for that. So we were called to a gunshot. Now, you don't know what you're going to walk into when you hear the word gunshot. The patient could be sitting there with a minor gunshot wound, or they could be lying dearly departed, unfortunately, which more often than not was the case. So we arrived at a house in a suburb, normal middle class, pretty nice looking house, nothing untoward or anything else. I don't recall if the police were yet in attendance. They probably were, because we always have to be cautious in those kind of situations. We don't just go barging in, especially if we don't know who shot who and where those people are and what's gone on. So we arrived and found lying in the lounge or the living room, depending on what you call it, was a man who was at the time probably in his 40s, middle 40s, mid 40s. And he's lying on the lounge floor, which was a tiled floor, and I can just remember the vast amount of the red stuff. I'm not sure how much I can and should and can't say on YouTube yet, and I also don't want to upset people. And when I discuss these things, it's never intended to ever be in a way that is not with great sympathy and compassion and kindness and care. So he's surrounded by this massive pool of basically all of what used to be inside of him, and it's now not. It's lying on the floor all around him. He's like in a puddle of it. And I can see immediately, with all my training and experience, I can see this man has passed away. He's dead. However, we are paramedics. We are there to see if we can try and save or, turn the situation around, which immediately when you see that kind of fluid loss, you can tell, no, your efforts are not going to have any effect. So what was quite incredible was that his young son, who I think he was early 20s maybe, or maybe 19-ish, he had a gunshot wound through his hand. It was actually through the palm of his hand. And the family were obviously distraught, and as they often are, in denial. They didn't realize that the father, the husband, the loved one is actually passed away on the floor. But we got down and assessed. We moved him so that we could actually, get to him without being too gory. You can use your imagination. And we noticed that he had a tiny hole, and I mean literally this big, right? Like this big, in his thigh, just below, like in the top part of his leg, just ever so slightly to the side, there was this bullet hole in his thigh. And it was quite immediately obvious that this bullet had hit him in his femoral artery. Was perfectly placed in his femoral artery, and you can imagine it didn't take very long. And what often happens, people panic. They are absolutely horrified. There's been a lot of emotion and stress going on, and the family and the loved ones don't know what to do, and they think that if they do try and help or stop that bleeding, that they'll somehow do more damage and hurt. Now, I just want to say right now, I'm not advocating anything. I'm not giving medical advice, but I am giving some logical advice from a paramedic who has seen this a lot. For goodness sake, people, plug the hole. Stick your finger in it if needed. Push with your hand. Put the heel of your hand on that hole. Push down for all you're worth. Believe me, even if it hurts them, it's going to help them and potentially save them, rather than watching them literally, lose all the fluid and then pass off the mortal plane whilst you sit and watch. And it's not to point fingers or blame, because I understand how stressful and desperate these situations are. But there was absolutely nothing we could do for this poor man. I mean, even, with CPR, it was going to be absolutely useless because there was nothing left inside of him to make any kind of difference. So we had to declare him gone. And the devastation and the horror when the family finally get that confirmation from a medical person, and suddenly that trauma and that reality just hits them like a 10-ton truck. It is horrifying to experience and see. I never got used to that. Every other part of my job I could handle, but that was always off the charts horrendous and heartbreaking. So the son we tended to, we, got him all sorted, and we actually transported him to hospital whilst we waited for the police to do the necessary. Now, the story goes, and this is where I'm getting at, okay? The story goes that he and his best friend were having an argument about who knows what. And in the heat of the moment, the best friend was so irate and so upset that he hauled out his gun to, shoot his friend. But he didn't want to do any major harm because they're still friends after all. So he thought, well, clearly, it's not going to work. I got to think about this. I'll just pop him in the leg, because then he knows I'm upset with him, but that will be fine. Oops, we just forgot that we've got the femoral artery running down there, and it's one of your biggest arteries in your body. And pow, that was a bad idea. The son was involved in the altercation and somehow tried to stop things, and that's how he got it through the hand. As far as I understand, it was the same bullet that went through the son and the father. Well, through the son and ended up in the father. Something along those lines. The details are vague, thankfully. But what I'm trying to get at, guys, is, first of all, when you're about to make a decision, and we often do in the heat of a moment with a lot of emotion flowing, that comes from having a lot of pent-up issues. And again, I'm not a psychologist. I was doing my degree, but I didn't quite finish my studies. So again, disclaimer, I'm not offering any kind of, therapy or mental advice here. I'm just trying to connect with you guys on a human level and just give us things to stop and think about, food for thought, and opportunities to do self-reflection, because I think that's so needed in society today. We're all carrying so much baggage mentally and emotionally because of unresolved things. And I have no doubt that the man who shot his friend, his best friend, was struggling with anger issues. And we see a lot of that. It's heavy today. It's everywhere. But then you decide to carry a weapon, and in the heat of the moment, you stupidly pull it out. You make a really dumb decision in a split second, and it has permanent life-changing consequences. Because not only is your best friend now dead, but you're going to be in jail. And there's so many examples of this out there. And what I just want to say is, we've got to stop and we've got to think about this thing called forgiveness. We've really, really got to take stock of this thing called forgiveness, because the Lord himself says, forgive, because I have forgiven you. Jesus paid the price, the ultimate price, and covered absolutely everything. There's nothing that cannot be forgiven from the Lord's point of view. And so how can we do less? He even tells us, you've been forgiven much, so you have to forgive. And again, I will start unpacking these things more and more in future videos, maybe, go deeper into these things. But I also like to just not over dig. I want to just throw it out there and challenge people. Start thinking about it. What do you need to forgive? What do you need to forgive? I mean, I had to work on forgiving my dad for like years. I think it honestly took me more than 20 years to really get to a point where I could feel, and where I truly believed, okay, I have worked through and processed everything to the best of my ability, and I really feel healed from this. I really do forgive because forgiveness is all about healing. And it's not for the other person to say, hey, what you did and how you acted and whatever was acceptable somehow. No, it's about letting go of those things that you hold, and you hold them inside of you, in your guts and in your chest. That's where you hold them, and they fuel so many thinking patterns and actions that eventually they become part of us. We feel like they are us, and they're not. Those feelings of anger, unforgiveness, places of hurt and pain and suffering that have been unhealed, those things need to be addressed, because otherwise you have a result where a man walks around, he's got all these issues, something triggers him, and he pulls out his gun and pops his best friend. Yes, he was, okay, I'll just do it, oops, I'll just pop him in the leg. No, you killed him. So this was a harsh one, I know, but it's again designed to be food for thought. Stop and think. If anyone's watching, if anyone's getting anything out of these videos, please give me some comments about, do you want me to unpack these issues more and talk about them more and share more of my experience and feelings and thoughts about all of these things, or just carry on as is, because I can, as you can see, natter the hind leg off a donkey. So, but the desire behind why I do these videos is because I want to connect with people out there and just make people realize, especially some who are struggling with being so alone and not having many people to talk to, or being too scared to talk to someone. Well, I'm here. You don't know me, and you're maybe on the other side of the world when you watch this, but the fact is I'm still human, and what I've been through and what I've experienced is real. And I talk about these things from the bottom of my heart with all the truth and intensity and feeling of care and kindness and concern that I can muster. So okay, we'll wrap it up for this one. And yeah, let the comments come so that I can kind of get an idea of how and where I should, proceed with these. Okay, great. Catch you guys on the other side. Start thinking about forgiveness in your own heart, in your own mind. Who do you have to forgive? It's one thing to say, oh, sorry, you got to forgive, and you owe me a forgiveness. Just start the forgiving. Don't wait for others to first come to you. Just start the forgiving, because it really does set you up for the healing process that is desperately needed. So, catch you soon, and yeah, we'll keep chatting if you keep coming. Okay, later.